Hey guys, welcome to the review show. My name's Austin. Longlegs stars Micaiah Morrow and Nicolas Cage. FBI agent Lee Harker is assigned to an unsolved serial killer case that takes an unexpected turn, revealing evidence of the occult. Harker discovers a personal connection to the killer and must stop him before he strikes again. Nicolas Cage is back. Yes, after the fucking awful film of Arcadian and that one uh, Western film. I think the Western film was last year. The old Western or whatever that was called, the Old Ways or whatever that bullshit. Now Nicolas Cage did have two other films coming out that last year, like the vampire film, and there was one other film I can't remember, but those ones were pretty good. They were all right, if anything. But this really just it's like you could not see anyone else play this role that he plays in this movie besides Nicolas Cage. Like he's kind of like the so I see why they got Nicolas Cage in this movie because it just works for him. It's like this is like his personality. In the other films that they picked that he was in, it's like anyone could have played that role, and they were also shit. This really uses the talent of Nicolas Cage very well, and in the marketing, this was a very smart marketing film. And this movie is going to do well in its first opening weekend. I will say that it will probably make its money back, no problem, on its first opening weekend. But overall, I did enjoy the film until a certain point. We'll get into what I didn't enjoy soon, but I really enjoyed this movie a lot. Michaela, I think that's how you say her name. She was in It Follows, which is a great horror film. If you haven't seen It Follows, you guys need to go check it out. I highly recommend it. I think I've reviewed it on the channel at some point a couple years ago. So if you want to hear more thoughts on that, go check that review. But she plays an FBI agent who's really good at her job, and she's like really smart. Ask her to come on to work onto this case and such, and because she can read situations or like look at as like maybe look at a house and be like, all right, that's where our guy's living, and it's just like she's like very smart, and she has a very talented detective skill. Can like decode read like this like letter that has like very old like languages or like old symbols that spell out like a message. Really cool to see the detective side of things and somewhat play off like of a suspenseful horror type of film. Because the whole premise of the film is that Nicolas Cage only kills people when it's the 14th day of the month. So the movie has an interesting premise when it comes to breaking down the case and solving certain things. But the movie has a problem where it just like it suddenly abruptly ends certain things. One scene later that involves the in the middle of the case where it's like, you're really good at solving this case that we couldn't solve a week ago or at all. Like this was a dead end case. We have a suspicion that you could have some form of attachment to this. It's like you got her because she's really good at her job, and it's like and like out of nowhere they kind of start pointing fingers to her for no reason. I'm like, what is this? And it goes nowhere. Like this finger pointing absolutely goes nowhere. It's just like, oh, okay. Go talk to your mom, and it's like, really the last 30 minutes of the film that started really hurting the film for me is that like when they decided to go down like the route that they choose to go down, it's like, okay, well, it's kind of a little generic, but all right, well, let's see where you go with this. But characters start being dumb in the film. Literally, there's a character in this film that kind of just stands there and while let people murder each other. It's like, what are you doing? Do something. It's like, why are you standing there? It's kind of fucking stupid. One character couldn't hear someone walking behind them, and that gets them killed. It's like, really? And people were freaking out because like someone would be like standing behind the character, and some like girl behind me goes like and it's like, really, shut the fuck up. There's stuff that I really liked about this movie, but the one thing that was really holding up for this movie that wasn't making me feel like, wow, this is pretty generic, is Nicolas Cage. Nicolas Cage owns this role, like I said at the beginning of the review, and they were doing a good job at keeping him hidden throughout the movie and not like showing his face a lot or like just like him being on screen. Like you would have to like sometimes like look out for him, like look around the screen. And there was times where like it would do that typical horror thing where like it will cut to something and next it go boom. Nicolas Cage is in the middle of the screen. So they were doing a really good job at keeping him hidden, but at some point in the film they just dropped that whole entire idea, like dropping the idea, keeping him in the shadows. Like, okay, well, where is he? Where like he could be anywhere. We just kind of just start suddenly following this guy into like a store or something, or into a car. Which for granted, like those like scenes that we do see him with are cool and they're kind of somewhat creepy. And actually we do get like a Nicolas Cage moment where he's going fucking nuts and screaming, but we could have had that maybe later on in the film when our main character finally encounters with this dude, and you can integrate the Nicolas Cage craziness into that. But showing him going to a store and showing him driving a car just kind of just took me out of the moment. Like, it kind of somewhat ruined the suspense. And next, I'm like looking at Nicolas Cage, I'm like, that's pretty good makeup, but the reason why you're kind of scared is because I don't know where the fuck you are. And it just seems like they really wrote into that scene. It's like, hey, we got Nicolas Cage. We're going to use Nicolas Cage for what he's good at and him being nuts. That's what it feels in. This scene does really feel intact in, because there's a scene with a little girl with him at the store. It never gets brought up ever again. It's just like it really did feel random. And that's kind of and that's when it kind of bleeds into the third act of time, at the last somewhat 30 minutes of the film, where the movie just started to really tank. Like, the movie honestly did not know what to do after a certain point, or to basically tie everything up. And this whole entire twist at the end was kind of fucking stupid. I was like, really? And it's something I actually really predicted from the beginning of the movie. It's like, this is gonna happen. I'm gonna give Longlegs a B minus. I did have a good time with it. It just really started tanking in that final third act, and it kind of struggled on how it wanted to handle its premise and how it wanted to end. But overall, Nicolas Cage goes nuts in this film. He is really awesome in this movie. Michaela is a good main protagonist in the movie. She does a good job. Her acting is really top notch. Anyway, guys, thank you very much for watching. Like always, I'll see you guys in the next review. Bye, guys.